Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Resistance Bureau. We are thrilled to kick off our first program of 2026 with you, our loyal community. Your continued support and belief in the power of voices rising against oppression fuels everything we do. Whether you've been with us from the beginning or are joining us anew, your passion helps us to make this space a beacon for change. So today, it is in this spirit that we welcome the Honorable Winnie Kiiza, a trailblazing Ugandan parliamentarian and the country's first female leader of the opposition. Over her decades-long career in politics and outside of it, Winnie has championed democracy and human rights, founding the Winnie Kiiza Foundation to empower and mentor youth and women while speaking out boldly on Uganda's many political challenges. This week, as the country's long-ruling despot, Yoweri Museveni, seeks another term in office amid widespread fear and unrest, our conversation will delve into the critical issues shaping this week's election. Winnie Kiiza, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for this space as well for giving me this opportunity
Of
to
course.
speak
It's
issues that and thank you.
it's our pleasure. And as I mentioned, your country, Uganda, is bracing for yet another pivotal election this week. So I wanted, if you could, for you to walk us through the most pressing issues at stake and help us really understand and grasp the feeling there on the ground. In what ways are the challenges you're facing affecting the hopes, the personal safety, and participation of ordinary Ugandans? And what does this moment mean for the future of democracy in your country?
Uganda is a democratic country, as it is said. In 1995, we came up with a constitution that guaranteed citizens the right to vote. And Article 1 of the constitution put power into the hands of the citizens and the right for the citizens to choose people of their choice to be governed as and how they wish is part of what is provided for in the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. This constitution was premised on the fact that the past was a dark one, that we had a turbulent past where power was did not pass through each other's hands properly, that for power to be transferred from one hand to another, there had to be bloodshed. So the constitution, which was promulgated in 1995, was against that background. And so Ugandans did a constitution that they thought was going to correct the ills of the past. But going forward, we see that the ills of the past are coming back. We are going into an election currently, and we are having parliamentary and presidential elections on the 15th of this month. But before then, there are a number of issues that should have been going on or that should have been happening in as far as democracy is concerned. Yes, we have an electoral commission, which is also created by an article of the Constitution. The electoral commission is supposed to be an independent electoral commission, and that is how it is anyway by nomenclature. But we come to realize that the electoral commission ceased to be independent. The electoral commission has just decided to be muzzled by the presidency. It is now controlled by President Museveni. He's the one who determines, but anyway, that was one of the loopholes that we also had in the Constitution. The Constitution provided that the president is the one to nominate members of the electoral commission. Even when we had a constitution amendment to call the electoral commission independent electoral commission, that aspect of the electoral commission being nominated by the president was not removed. So even when the president is a key player, is one of the participants, he still has a duty to appoint the members of the electoral commission. So in most cases, you realize that those appointed are members of his political party, the National Resistance Movement. So you can imagine members of the National Resistance Movement being arbiters in an election or being the judges in an election where they are appointing authority is a candidate. So our president is a candidate, but he's in charge of those that are going to be responsible for the elections. And then his political party is competing with other political parties. So we find that the Electoral Commission is really partisan. Many of the issues that they are supposed to be doing independently, they can't do them independently. We have seen Electoral Commission denominating candidates. We have seen Electoral Commission at last minute, creating new polling stations, and they create polling stations without informing the members of the public and without informing members of the other political parties. We have seen Electoral Commission remaining silent when key issues are being tampered with by the state. The issue of voter education has not been an issue in this election. And even before, because it is an issue that we've been talking about, civic rights have been muzzled. Electoral Commission has decided to surrender its powers to the army. It's now the army commander, the CDF, that is now talking about issues of the issues of elections. Recently, he was telling citizens that when you reach the polling station, vote and go home. Anybody we shall find there, we shall arrest, we shall beat. And you find that the army is seriously and heavily involved in the electoral process. Yet, Article 208 of the Ugandan Constitution, Clause 2, prohibits the UPDF from participating in partisan politics. Equally, the UPDF Act, Section 2, Subsection 2, prohibits them from participating in partisan politics. But the CDF is at all times acting partisan, allowing his army to go and participate in campaigns of NRM candidates. We saw it happen in the primaries of NRM, and we thought it would end at the primaries of NRM. A lot of violence. Many people were killed by UPDF. Many people were maimed by UPDF. Chaos was created at polling stations by the UPDF. So this chaos that emerged from the primaries of the ruling government, political party, NRM, has been transported into the elections, main elections, where now some candidates have decided to also create militias. And so when this happens, we get worried. We don't know how the election is going to end. We don't know whether these militias are not going to affect the election that is happening on the 15th for the president and the members of parliament. And UPDF officers, you will hear them saying openly that we are going to ensure that President Museveni remains president of the Republic of Uganda. They are supposed to be non-partisan. They are supposed to be a force that defends the entire population. As to how they have decided to become a one-man's army is something that we still ask as citizens of Uganda. Organizations that are supposed to participate in civic education, civil society organizations, have been silenced. Majority of them have not been allowed to participate in observation. As we speak today, Chapter 4 has been summarily closed. Operations of Chapter 4 have been suspended. Other organizations we know are following suit. We are remaining with only 5 days, actually 4 days now. To the election is on Thursday. 3 days to the next election. In 3 days, they are now suspending organizations. Other organizations that we thought would be allowed to do observation of elections were denied access. Political actors, members of the opposition are being arrested. Dr. Besigye was arrested last year. Other opposition agents and activists are being arrested on a daily basis. Sarah Virete was arrested on the 31st of December, and she was just sent to prison on remand. So you see that the temperatures are going so high. We don't know what will happen on the 15th or maybe a few days after 15th. And every effort is being made to ensure that President Museveni wins this election, whether we like it or not. The population is tired of President Museveni, being now, I think, the longest serving president on the continent of Africa. 40 years in power, he's now 81, and he still wants to continue running the affairs of the nation. We know that he's no longer in control. We know that it's now the son who almost virtually runs everything, his son and his brother.
Right.
Same time, they don't want to leave power. And so they are ready to use every effort, including using the army, to terrorize Ugandans, to terrorize every citizen. And this, we don't know, may lead to possibly other citizens running out of the country. And Agora, an organization that works on investigative journalism, it is for investigative journalists, gave us an investigation that they have carried out on violence in elections. And this piece speaks volumes. You would check it on YouTube. It's Blood and the Ballot. Blood and the Ballot. It is on YouTube, but it shows you the magnitude of violence in elections in Uganda. I would recommend that you look through it and you see what happens during an election. Here in Uganda, an election is just like a battlefield.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I think that was a Twitter space they held over the weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was able to tune in for a little bit. As you're talking, about these many challenges around the election, we know from past experience in Uganda that the regime consistently shuts down internet access before, during, and after election periods, which of course, severely limits communication. And in Uganda's case, it has enabled outright brazen electoral manipulation. Given the urgency for activists, many of these organizations that you've mentioned here today to respond in real time to this issue, what strategies that you're aware of or that you might recommend are being deployed to circumvent these restrictions and ensure the secure flow of information? Because as we know, this is inevitable, right? So what is being done to counteract these measures by the government working in hand, with the police, with the military, and with relevant electoral authorities?
Yeah, Jeff, last election in 2021, of course, internet was shut down. There was again a shutdown of internet. There was a suspension of civil society organizations. Around 54 organizations were suspended. Some of them, their accounts were blocked. They couldn't even access the little money that they had on their accounts. Now, when it came to internet, what was first suspended was Facebook. The use of Facebook became an issue in Uganda. Internet was shut down for 2 complete days, the day of elections and the day after. And this, of course, could not allow us to communicate with each other, like in ensuring that information flows from one polling station to the other. And internet is very critical. Fast forward, digital rights are human rights. So when you shut down the internet, it's like you're violating the citizens' right of access to information, the citizens' right of communicating freely with each other. Secondly, you are also impacting the economy of the country. After that election, Freedom House released a report, and their index report indicated that Uganda lost 900 billion in those 2 days due to the closure or the shutdown of internet.
Right.
Mobile money operators could not carry out business. TVs could not operate. Radio stations that use internet could not operate. Journalists who would have otherwise transacted their business or transmitted their information to the many media houses could not. And so a population of close to 20 plus million that gets information from TVs and radio stations could not get information. There was a total blackout of information in terms of what was happening to the election. And this happens because they don't want people to know what is happening, and government may just choose to announce whom they want to announce because they know nobody has any information. And so during that time, we tried as much as possible to use VPN. VPN became the issue that we used. But now we have been told that VPN can equally be controlled. We want to thank those who are into innovations. They came up with a bit chat. The only unfortunate bit with the bit chat is that the coverage of bit chat is limited. You can only deal with bit chat when you are 50 meters apart from each other and you can access Bluetooth. So we still have a challenge as for now. We thought possibly bit chat was going to be the bullet that we shall use, but I'm very sure that we are coming up with other innovations, of course, using the ones that have high innovative capacities in technology. We shall still find a way of how we can communicate. Maybe using SMS. We can use SMS because we still have small phones that do not necessarily require internet. But this does not necessarily allow many people to view what is happening, because you can't use these other ordinary phones to record what is happening. Maybe we can be in the meantime thinking of using that. But I still remember in 2021 and 2026, even MTN was closed down. We were not even able to use telephone conversations because there was no way you could send a message. There was no way you could call a neighbor. The network was tampered with. So while the Uganda Communications Commission is also now into collusion with the government to ensure that information does not flow freely to the users, the Ugandan citizens, together with their friends who have knowledge of technology, they are finding ways of circumventing all these abuses and violations. And by the end of maybe tomorrow, we should be in position to find which other ways, because we are also sitting to see how do we circumvent. The way we just dodged the shutdown on internet and we went to VPN and we are still able to access Facebook and other channels, how do we still forge a way forward and ensure that we continue monitoring on our own? The National Unity Platform requested the Electoral Commission that if there is a way, they should let political parties have access to their transmission gadgets and lines, so that when votes are being transmitted from a district X, as they go to Electoral Commission, even the political parties can have access, so that there is transparency.
Right.
But as I see, the Electoral Commission has not replied in the affirmative, meaning that there is still not going to be any transparency in the way votes are transmitted from the different districts to the National Tally Center. And that is where now the issue comes in of rigging, the issue of manipulation, and the issue of declaring candidates that are not necessarily the winners of the election.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for that update and for that rundown on the situation. It's really unfortunate because as you're talking, I'm thinking about so many other examples of governments across the region who have used similar tactics. You know, you're talking about the internet shutdown in particular, and what we just saw transpire in Cameroon, for example, in the eighth term now that President Paul Biya was able to secure amid, a blackout and among electoral rigging. And when you're talking about MTN being involved and working in cahoots with the government, of course, we saw that happen in Tanzania, right? And in other places across the region. So it's really a reminder to me and hopefully to our listeners that just as autocrats and their enablers and cheerleaders and sycophants work together, it's just as important for us and for small d Democrats to work together as well and to figure out and come up with new and innovative solutions to sidestep a lot of these repressive tactics that these governments use. And sort of along those same lines, I had a final question for you, and it's a bit sensitive, but I wanted to ask you, about the amount of foreign assistance that goes to Uganda, namely from the U.S. government under both Republican and Democratic administrations over the course of 40 years now, as you mentioned, President Museveni having been in power since 1986. In the case of the U.S., this assistance overall typically equates to around 1 billion US dollars a year, which is not insignificant. So I wanted to ask you, how do you view the role of Western governments in enabling or otherwise bankrolling this repression that we see in Uganda? And we know that many policymakers and staffers listen to this show. So if they are listening today, what message would you deliver to them, those who really have the power to continue and to maintain this flow of aid despite all of this potential to prop up authoritarian rule and undermine citizen aspirations for democracy? I'd really love your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Jeff, for this question. And I would like to thank the American citizens really for paying their taxes and ensuring that their taxes support humanity globally. Uganda as a country is a beneficiary to the support from the US citizens through their government. And yes, like you have said, the almost 1 billion US dollar support that comes to the government of Uganda goes toward the health subsector. It goes to the Ministry of Defense, and of course for economic growth. What I feel so bad about is that even when this support comes, it's not used for the purpose for which it is meant. And the US taxpayers, together with their governments, just pay a deaf ear. The IGG's report of 2025 indicated that every financial year, 10 trillion Uganda shillings is lost to corruption. So even when this money comes to support health, I know some of it comes for HIV-related ailments, tuberculosis, and the others. Money is lost to corruption. And the US government does not get bothered with these authoritarian regimes that survive on corruption, because corruption is now like a cancer in Uganda. Whether in the Ministry of Health, that's why you will go to the health sector and you will find there are no drugs. Even when HIV patients are failing to get medication in the different locations of the country, we hear that some medications have expired, and the ones who are giving us money do not get bothered. Medications expire because the ones who are supposed to do the delivery system have not delivered. Maybe they have misused and abused the fund, and the ones who give us the money keep silent. The other money that they give us, the foreign assistance, comes for the support in defense, basically for professionalization of the army. Now, I don't know how they feel when they see that the army is the one participating in violations of human rights. Most especially during these elections, you will find that it's the army that is beating up people. And I don't know whether the US government is happy that they have contributed to professionalizing the army, and the would have been professional army is the one on the streets beating up citizens, is the one on the streets torturing citizens, taking people to basements, the army. And the CDF will be quick to say, yes, that one we have him, and is under the basement, is being taught Runyankole. Runyankole is the president's language. So the army that is supposed to be professional, that is supposed to be handling issues professionally, is the one that is being used by President Museveni to terrorize the population. And my problem with now the US foreign assistance is that maybe it comes to support Museveni's overstay in power, because if he's doing it with impunity, and the ones who are contributing to the professionalization of the army are not complaining, I find a problem there. while the taxpayers of America are paying for the betterment of the citizens of Uganda, their support is participating in sustaining an authoritarian regime that is killing people, that is violating rights, and any civil society actor who would want to talk about it. Allegations by the president are that that one is a homosexual funded by homosexuals from those other countries, and they are just here to bring homosexuality into Uganda. And when they blackmail people with the issues of homosexuality, foreign funding, citizens tend to think that the ones speaking are the ones in a problem. But to me, I know it is a tactic that President Museveni has learned, blackmailing people who want to speak out and remaining just there with impunity, doing things with impunity, remaining there without any accountability being asked of him. So I want the American government to really give government of Uganda money, but demand for accountability. Where the money is being abused, like if you send money for professionalization of the army and you see the professional army that you are training or providing support for is the one torturing people and violating the rights of citizens, withdraw the fund or hold the perpetrators accountable. But when you see them doing messes with impunity and you continue injecting money into the same system, then we would blame you for being part of our enemies. Otherwise, we thank the taxpayers of the US for the support they give to the world, including Uganda. But let them be kind enough and follow up how the money is being used.
Yeah.
In case they find misuse and abuse, let them speak out and the citizens hear, because we, the citizens, see. There is no way we would want to tell the government of America, please stop funding activities in Uganda, because our citizens benefit from some of this support. But we know that much of the funds is abused in form of corruption and then abuse by those who are the beneficiaries out of the trainings that they get. Maybe we are now the people from whom they do their trials. If a professional army is supposed to be beating up people, then they say, okay, start it from your citizens. And they met this torture on the citizens. It's so unfortunate, so sad, and so frustrating.
Yeah, well, I definitely share your frustration, particularly with regard to my government here in Washington over the decades, really working to prop up authoritarian rule in Uganda and elsewhere. So I think that's something we need to continue to work on. And I think your point about accountability and transparency is so well taken. So thank you for expounding on all of that. And thank you for really sharing your insights on all these important topics today. I think when we're living in an era as we are today, when many elected leaders, both former and current, such as yourself, too many have chosen to remain silent. So I think your example here today and through the work that you do should remind leaders of the profound responsibilities that they hold. So as you and your fellow Democrats in Uganda forge ahead this week and certainly on Thursday, rest assured that we will be watching, we'll be speaking out when we can and doing so loudly and sending you our strength. So thank you very much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Jeff, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. And for our listeners, stay tuned for more shows like this throughout the year where we will continue to spotlight the bravest leaders and activists like Winnie who are shaping our world, those who will inspire us, challenge us, and certainly remind us all of what it means to stand for what is right and for what is just. Here's to another year of courage, resilience, and unforgettable stories. Stay safe in the meantime and know that our solidarity here at the Resistance Bureau always travels with you. See you next time.